Crack at weighing in on a city budget that includes an historic property tax increase.
I don't blame anyone who's having this knee-jerk reaction.
How tonight's first public consultation could shape Olivia Chow's first budget as mayor.
I believe firmly that housing is a human right. It's a basic human right.
Plus, the city expands its warming center operation, why some advocates say it's not coming swiftly enough.
You know, go and love your Main Street and invest in it.
And Main Street Glow Up, what towns across our region can do to improve the heart of their downtown with an influx of new money. Hi, good evening. I'm Chris Glover. Let's get right to the city's ongoing response to the bitter cold snap that we're continuing to deal with. Tonight, the 5th warming center opened for people experiencing homelessness. But as Talia Ricci reports, some advocates are concerned it's all happening too piecemeal.
The Cecil Community Center is already known as a safe space in the neighborhood. It provides various services and acted as a warming center last year.
Throughout the year, we work with a population that is unhoused anyways. And so we see the folks, the men and women who come through our doors all the time, and we understand the challenges that they face.
This year, though, it's set up as a surge space. It will only be opened when the temperatures fall to -15 or during extreme weather events.
There'll be 30 cots set up in this space here. There'll be some areas where there'll be refreshments, I think, like tea and coffee.
The city should be in a foot race to save lives, and why they are doing this piecemeal makes no sense to me at all.
Advocates say warming centers should be open the entire season, as the shelter system struggles with capacity and more people are on the streets than ever before.
For the hundreds and hundreds who are still outside, it's not a proper solution. The numbers speak for themselves and they're overwhelming.
And I'm not sure why they didn't open yesterday. So I am glad they're opening today because it's desperately needed, but also we know that 30 beds is not enough.
These spaces are in addition to the city's 4 warming centers, which the city says gives residents a safe place to rest, access to washrooms, and referrals to emergency shelters. All of them were at capacity when the cold weather arrived over the weekend.
The reality of cold-related death and injury is very real. We and people who work in the community have seen frostbite and amputations and limbs lost because of the cold.
The city says in addition to expanding warming center operations, it's also opened more shelter spaces, new 24-hour respite sites, and started to tenant new permanent housing. But officials also acknowledge it's tough keeping up with the increasing demand.
Right now, we have a number of different factors all at play that are putting greater pressures on our shelter system. There's the economic situation where it's harder for people to pay for their bills. There's a lack of housing stock, and we have a huge number of refugee claimants coming to the city.
The city and advocates are calling on other levels of government for more support.
As the winter goes through, we're always looking to find ways to add capacity to the system. This, of course, costs a great deal of money.
Those who interact with vulnerable people daily say they worry about the lives that are at stake.
I believe firmly that housing is a human right. It's a basic human right, and everybody deserves it. And if you listen to the stories of these men and women, some of them are quite young. You'll understand that you could be in that same situation, and we really do need to take care of each other.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
And it may look pretty as we look live at the city of Toronto, at least from this vantage point, but that dangerous cold is certainly still with us. -11 right now, feeling more like -19 with the wind chill. Victor Paulo joins us now with today's weather headlines. And Victor, it's actually set to get colder through the overnight.
Chris, cold right now in the GTA, extremely cold. It's going to be feeling closer to -26 the later we do get on here and towards the night. And speaking of the dangerous cold and the cold air, those are the 2 contributing factors, as you do see when it comes to watches and warnings. Right beside us, there was an extreme cold warning, and to the east of us as well, there's a weather advisory in place. Now, average temperature this time of year, -2.3 is your average high, and -10.7 is your average low. And taking a look at what's coming our way, it's not necessarily rain, it's not necessarily snow. The big story here, right around we start our day tomorrow, it's going to be the cold, because tomorrow morning when my little Emmy and your little ones get ready, it's going to be minus 16, feeling like minus 27 to start the day, and that is probably the coldest morning any of us have experienced in quite a long time here in the GTA. Now, later on in the week, looking at a 3-day forecast, you can't see it's going to start like minus 27, eventually feeling like minus 19 around the peak, and back-to-back days where it's going to be cloudy on Thursday and Friday. Over to you, Chris.
All right, thank you, Victor. The OPP releasing this video today showing Highway 407 to highlight the danger of driving during icy conditions. Watch that car in the back behind the plows. You see it approach at a high rate of speed and then careen between two of the plows, landing itself kind of haphazardly in the middle of the highway. There were no reported injuries, but the plowing operation had to be stopped for a bit, and the OPP is hoping to remind drivers to slow down and be careful. Toronto police are requesting the public's help in identifying 4 suspects in an attempted break-and-enter, all caught on video. Police say they responded to a break-and-enter call on Monday in the area of Beach Grove Drive and Coronation Drive just after 2:20 a.m. This footage that you're looking at now was released by police today. It shows 4 people in dark clothing, 2 of them with handguns in the backyard of a home. Police say the suspects fled the area in a silver 4-door sedan. And of course, anybody with information is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers. We found out today a whack of cash is going to municipalities in Ontario. The federal government is announcing new supports for small businesses on main streets. The investment is meant to help with the economic recovery of small towns still struggling to bounce back following the pandemic. Tyler Cheese has all the details.
I am excited to build on the success of My Main Street and announce an investment of $15 million.
The federal minister responsible for economic development in Southern Ontario wants to see main streets prosper across the province.
As I visit towns and cities across Southern Ontario, I hear from many business owners who are now starting to grow after making it through the pandemic, which we know was a very challenging feat.
The My Main Street Recovery and Redevelopment Program was started in 2021 to help businesses bounce back from COVID, and it's been very successful.
To date, our government's investment has supported nearly 4,000 businesses and organizations, leveraged over $16 million in additional investments, and created or maintained over 6,000 jobs.
One part of the program will provide up to $20,000 directly to businesses.
They can use these for like their marketing campaigns, or they can enhance their equipment for their business, or facade improvement for the business.
The funding will also be used to support initiatives like local markets, festivals, and streetscape improvements. The government says about 2,500 businesses will benefit. Today's announcement is obviously meant to help out businesses along streets like this one here in Unionville, but those involved say the bigger picture is that economic growth in these spaces allows them to continue thriving as community hubs.
80% of Canadians live within about 700 meters of a main street. And so rather than resorting to just purchasing online, go and love your main street and invest in it.
They are places of commerce, but they're also community hubs for festivals and events, and really connecting the community to each other. And I think in a community, any community, really, you want that diversity in retail experience.
25% of funding will go to rural communities, with another 50% to support traditionally underrepresented groups. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Markham.
Welcome back. It was a big night for the future of our city. Public consultations beginning tonight. People getting a chance to weigh in on Toronto's budget and voice their opinions directly to the mayor and city staff. A lot of people continuing to react to the proposed 10.5% increase to property taxes in Toronto. Dale Manukduk listened to tonight's phone-in town hall along with a couple of young civic leaders.
What are you expecting to hear from residents of Toronto?
A lot of angry messages.
For the most part, people called in and were cordial.
Will the seniors be affected with the high taxes?
Though some did come in hot.
I mean, I don't understand these people who are coming as refugees. I due respect to them. But then why can't we, the feds take care of them?
Others came with messages that were music to Mayor Chow's ears.
I want to say that the tax increase is long overdue. We haven't been paying nearly enough.
The tax increase was the dominant question. Why 10%? Why not find savings?
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Toronto's chief financial officer tried to paint how dire the truth really is in Toronto.
We could look at entirely eliminating transit service in the city. No subways, no buses, no streetcars, as well as completely eliminating fire services in the city. We would have still been $30 million short from balancing this year's budget.
We listened along to the town hall with young civic leaders for their take.
I don't blame anyone who's having this knee-jerk reaction, because for so many years, all they've been told is taxes are bad.
Yeah, I think historically it's been, we'll keep this tax increase or we'll keep this tax rate, then we'll see what we can do with it. Now it's kind of, we're building the city that people progressively want to see, and this is what that's going to cost us, though.
The chickens can kind of come home to roost in a lot of ways, right? We've been borrowing. We've been on borrowed time.
The phone-in town hall lasted an hour and a half. Budget Chair Shelley Carroll says input and concerns will help shape the city going forward.
We now have to hear from constituents. Some of the town halls go swimmingly well, some are a little more heated. And so some of the red button issues are rising up in the community now. And at the end of this month, we will give our best advice to the mayor.
2 more telephone town halls are scheduled this week, in-person ones for next week. Dale Manuktuk, CBC News, Toronto.
Property taxes, of course, impact homeowners. That's obvious, but sometimes it's a little less clear or direct to see the impact on renters. But now some advocates are worried with a major proposed tax increase, it'll be renters left picking up a bigger tab as well. Clara Pasica has that part of our coverage tonight.
Catherine Jasmine considers herself lucky. She lives in a 1-bedroom apartment in High Park, paying under $2,000 a month for rent. Still, she's already saving all she can just to stay in the city.
I don't go out anymore. I don't go for dinner anymore. I don't do any activities anymore. You know, anything that costs money.
Now talk of a 4.5% property tax increase is being contemplated by the city for multi-residential buildings. It has her worried a rent hike could come her way. According to provincial rules, that figure, considered extraordinary, would create an option for her landlord to apply for an above-guideline rent increase.
The government needs to start stepping in, and I don't know what that looks like. It might be banning AGIs.
This lawyer says these fears may not bear out.
I can expect an increase in the number of applications for above-guideline rent increases. Whether or not they are successful, that's another story.
Kwan says it can be tough for landlords to prove the need to hike rent based solely on a property tax increase. If council manages to get the figure low enough, landlords can't apply for AGIs on these grounds. Those who sit on the budget committee say councillors will be considering the impact of their choices on renters carefully.
We want to make sure that there's an equity lens on how we're attacking the budget, and then making sure that we get through 2024, not creating more need and more burden. We're doing our level best to make sure that we have a balance there.
This tenant advocate opposes the use of AGIs, but doesn't think most tenants should be fearful right now.
My message to regular renters is relax a little bit. Aggies are only issued if they meet a threshold. And again, it's up to your landlord whether or not to get that money or not, right? The city, it's not an automatic rent increase.
For now, renters will wait to see what rate comes to pass when the budget is officially voted on next month. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, one thing to be really clear on is that it's not just the city of Toronto. A number of other places across Ontario are looking at property tax increases. And we're also not alone in asking the province and federal governments for financial help. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has that part of our coverage tonight.
Waterloo Region has approved a close to 7% increase. So far, the recommended portion for the city of Waterloo is more than 7%. In Pickering, property owners will likely be paying an extra 5%, to be confirmed at the end of the month. Similar increases are possible for many Ontarians.
We're seeing potential numbers coming in 6%, up to 10% and more.
The Association of Municipalities of Ontario wants the province to pay more and take back some services it downloaded in the 90s, like social housing, ambulances, and public health.
We really have a fundamentally unsustainable fiscal framework with the province. In every other province and territory in Canada, those are not municipal funding responsibilities.
Municipalities have raised concerns about the cost of homelessness and encampments, wanting more help from the province. The province says it has provided funding and will continue to support municipalities in a way that's sustainable and responsible. Some are calling for a new deal altogether, something approved by Burlington City Council today. Another increased cost, not only in Toronto, is due to the surge in asylum seekers. Pickering's mayor says that shouldn't fall on cities.
Which is entirely up to the federal government to make the determination of who is let into our country. So it should be the federal government looking after those expenses.
In his city, the tax increase won't be as big as in Toronto, but his residents are already paying more. He hears it all the time from people who move from Toronto.
They have a sticker shock when they get their tax bill here in the suburbs.
He hopes both the federal and provincial budgets will include some relief for municipalities. But as for hopes of a new deal between municipalities and the province, it doesn't sound likely. A spokesperson for the finance minister says Toronto's new deal reflects the city's unique financial challenges, including the scale and scope of the transit and shelter systems. Lorenda Radicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Inflation is still pushing hard against efforts to rein it in. The Consumer Price Index rose slightly to 3.4% in December, up from 3.1% the month before. Statistics Canada says the increase was fueled by gasoline prices, which have been dropping more slowly than a year ago. Increasing costs for mortgages and rent and stubbornly high grocery prices also contributed to the increase. Now, when food and fuel are factored out, the so-called core inflation rate dipped slightly to 3.5% in December compared to 3.6% in November. The Bank of Canada sets its key interest rate next week, and it's expected to hold steady at 5%. Science students at a Mississauga school were over the moon this morning, getting a chance to remotely control a lunar rover.
It's a really cool opportunity for students to have a hands-on experience working with the things that we were talking about. So it's really hard to take students to space, but it's great to bring that down to here where they can physically see a rover, they can maneuver it.
My team's role was scientist. What we do is we use scientific instruments to see what type of rocks are there and if there's water potential. We tell the payload operators to use the scientific instruments, and we check in with everybody to see if it's okay.
I love that passion and excitement. Those grade 6 students are from Lisgar Middle School, and they won the experience as the grand prize of the Lunar Rover Research Challenge. Now, the Artemis II mission is scheduled to launch in September of 2025. A live look at Windsor as we head to break. Folks there dealing with an extreme cold warning tonight. Current temperature there is -15, feeling more like -25. And Victor's tracking when the warmth returns in the long-range forecast. Stay with us. Returning now to the weather forecast, and this week's frigid temperatures certainly dominating the conversation. Victor's back with the long-range forecast. And Victor, this cold is really sticking around.
Take a look at the map of North America here. We'd just like to note a couple things. You can see over here a lot of Alberta, a lot of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Northern Ontario. We're experiencing a lot of those cold temperatures all week, even dating back as far as last week. But you can see it's finally come to us here in the GTA, and that is the reason why we do have things such as extreme cold warnings, which are similar to Alberta and Saskatchewan as well. Getting a little bit closer, you can see that a lot of eastern, northeastern GTA is going to question western GTA. We'll be feeling a lot of that extreme cold warning, and a lot of areas in the east of the GTA will be feeling a weather advisory. Now, speaking of the temperatures and the weather, when it comes to tonight, well, the reason that extreme cold warning is around the GTA is because it's going to be -16 here, feeling like -26 by the time the show is all said and done. Now, taking a look at what we're going to be expecting when it comes to the weather coming our way, well, again, the big theme here, the big story here is not so much about the snow that's coming, which is not, or not so much about the rain that's coming, which is not, by the way, or ice pellets. There's nothing falling from the sky. The big thing is it's going to be the cold weather. Right around 9 o'clock, if you do see here to start the day tomorrow, it's going to be feeling like minus 27 in the GTA. Now, these are temperatures which are much colder than we've been experiencing over the last couple of months, but definitely want to make sure you're prepared should that day start tomorrow, or if you're going to be outdoors overnight tonight, you want to make sure you're also prepared, because again, tonight's going to be minus 16, feeling like minus 26, not any warmer than it's going to be tomorrow. Now, a bit of a peek of what else is in store for this week. If you do look at a 3 and 7 day forecast, you can see that once that cold weather on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, feeling like minus 19 back-to-back days on Wednesday and Thursday, feeling like minus 16 on Friday. And when it comes to your Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, well, it does start to get a bit warmer, but also Monday and Tuesday is bringing us some snow. Toronto, stay warm, and over to you, Chris.
Yeah, nice to see that warm up. Thanks, Victor. Well, these guys certainly don't mind the cold. The Calgary Zoo hosting its annual Penguin Walk today. 14 penguins participating this year, and the zoo's youngest penguin walked the event today for the very first time. The zoo says king penguins are known for walking far distances near open water in the wild. Finally tonight, if you've been looking for patties at Bathurst Station, well, you are in luck. They're back. CBC Bakery is up and running again after a fire last year that put the entire operation in jeopardy. We caught up with the owner to see how things are going.
Nobody loves patties more than Toronto, and Toronto loves good patties. And we haven't changed the recipe over 40 years.
This is what the CBC Bakery looked like today, just hours after fire crews extinguished a massive blaze.
I'm gonna rebuild some way, shape, or form. It's been a wild ride for a year. Like, you wouldn't believe everything I went through, everything I had to do to keep things going. Currently, I'm in a very good place. I feel like I'm back to who I was when I first started 6 years ago. I'm driven, I'm focused, and I'm comfortable now. You know, I'm being more and more myself. 2,005 hours. Back in the day, we were doing like 7,000 a day. We're making enough for my restaurant in Lansdowne and Bathurst subway stations. I think making the best product you can that anybody can have is perfect. To make a real pretentious and exorbitant patty may be perfect in flavor, but if nobody can afford it, it's not really perfect, is it?
All right, now I'm hungry. Going home to eat. That's our show for you tonight. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.